fouled and then punched in the throat. That could kill her. Right? And the WNBA, right? The people that run that league, if you're Dijonai here and you have a foul like that, I don't want to hear about, okay, that's a flagrant 2 and you get this sort of fine. She should be suspended for the rest of the season because this isn't, as you said, Tommy, a whoops. This is intentional. This was targeting Sophie Cunningham, and I don't care if the player is white or black. It does not matter. When you do this to somebody, this is horrible for the league. Obviously, this was done because Sophie Cunningham stood up for women, saying that men shouldn't play against women in sports because there is a...
Welcome to WNBA Core, your daily hub for the biggest headlines, intense reactions, and trending stories across the basketball landscape. Here, we break down what went down on the court, how commentators are responding, and why the situation matters. So if you're looking for deep analysis beyond basic headlines, you've come to the right place. Let's get right into it. Before we dive deeper into today's story, my valued viewers, please take a look at this footage first.
And then Cunningham gets into the face of Dijonai Carrington.
What initially looked like a hard basketball collision between Dijonai Carrington and Sophie Cunningham quickly escalated into one of the most talked about disputes in recent WNBA history. After Dijonai Carrington delivered a heavy blow that threw the game into complete chaos, Sophie Cunningham found herself right at the center of a wild turn of events tonight. Game officials made a critical ruling on the spot.
The defensive foul on Dijonai Carrington has been upgraded to a flagrant foul penalty 2.
Carrington was assessed a flagrant 2 and immediately thrown out of the game. However, the controversy didn't stop on the court. It exploded across social media minutes after her ejection, with Carrington reportedly posting the phrase, "white privilege." That turned out to be just the beginning. Beyond the immediate league circles, outside voices started demanding that the WNBA take much stronger action than a simple game ejection. Media analyst Concha publicly called for Carrington to receive a full season suspension, arguing that the contact was completely intentional and alleging that Carrington specifically targeted Cunningham. This is where the whole situation gets even more explosive. Was this simply an overly physical defensive play? Was it personal revenge? Or is there a deeper issue that the WNBA is now forced to address? We're breaking down every single moment, the huge media fallout, the social media backlash, and the major questions the league must answer. Let's listen directly to what Concha and other sports media commentators had to say regarding this tense scene, as their takes bring up major questions about what comes next. This story is moving fast, so before we continue, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Yeah, look, it was definitely a hard foul.
I mean, look, it was a hard foul. I don't think that Dijonai intentionally came out to get her across the neck like she did. But it did happen, and I thought it was the right call. But, you know, one of the things about Nay is that she's going to play her butt off, man. She's going to compete. Nobody's going to go walking in for a layup. And so, I don't oppose the hard foul. But I also don't think that she intentionally went for the neck.
Professional basketball is inherently emotional, and whenever an aggressive play crosses the line, public debate explodes in an instant. Athletes fight for positioning, fight through hard screens, and contest every drive. Physical contact is an unavoidable element of the game. But every so often, a single replay forces everyone to ask a much bigger question. Was that just hard-nosed basketball, or did it cross into dangerous territory? That is precisely what occurred during the Dijonai Carrington and Sophie Cunningham altercations. Almost instantly, the conversation shifted away from the score on the board and focused entirely on intent, sportsmanship, player safety, and where official boundaries should be set. What started as one controversial defensive attempt rapidly transformed into a massive talking point for WNBA fans, sports media analysts, and even casual observers who didn't tune into the live broadcast.
So Carrington is a dirty player, probably the dirtiest player in the league. And then she has the audacity to go online right after her ejection and claim that she got ejected because of racism.
There's another crucial angle to this controversy that needs proper coverage. The athlete on the receiving end of a dangerous collision deserves to have her voice and perspective represented. Sophie Cunningham has established herself as a prominent figure in the WNBA, and her fiery, highly competitive personality defines how audiences perceive her. So when a high-profile physical incident involves Cunningham, fan reactions tend to escalate at lightning speed. Her supporters view the hit as yet another instance of targeted, unfair treatment. Her critics counter that it was merely standard physical play in a highly competitive league. Meanwhile, neutral observers are left asking one fundamental question: where exactly do officials draw the line? That remains a completely fair question. If professional leagues demand high-intensity, physical play from their athletes, they hold a clear responsibility to enforce strict, unambiguous boundaries for acceptable contact. Without firm standards, every hard foul threatens to spiral into an endless cycle of arguments over player motivation, official bias, and disciplinary enforcement. The WNBA truly is the gift that keeps on giving. The latest drama involves a full-on clothesline hit on Sophie Cunningham by Dijonai Carrington, the exact same player who previously launched a bizarre tirade against a driver and famously struck Caitlin Clark from behind during her rookie season. But look, I'm not inherently against physical basketball. That's fine. The actual problem arose afterward when she posted white privilege. A white player drives to the rim, an African-American player knocks her flat on her back with a clothesline tackle, and officials upgrade it to a flagrant 2. Here is where the dynamic gets fascinating. Social media algorithms don't reward balanced nuances, they reward outrage, high energy, and extreme hot takes. A raw 10-second video clip paired with a provocative headline can draw hundreds of thousands of views within minutes. On the flip side, a detailed 5-minute breakdown explaining the full context and tactical angles usually receives far less traction. That structural dynamic is precisely why sports debates turn toxic so fast. One user tweets, "That was 100% deliberate." Another instantly counters, "People are blowing a routine foul out of proportion." Then a third person chimes in demanding, "The front office needs to ban her for the year." Before you know it, thousands of people who didn't watch a single minute of the actual game are arguing over the incident as if they had courtside seats. That is the fundamental problem with outrage-driven sports media. It isn't that fans shouldn't hold players accountable, they absolutely should. But valid critique must always rely on verifiable facts, actual footage, and documented evidence. Sophie Cunningham simply couldn't clear the top of the play. If she had gotten over the top and finished the sequence, nobody would even be discussing this right now. She was trailing too far behind the action. Yeah, exactly right. And if a person survives a dangerous encounter, nobody calls it a homicide. Now, let's address the central debate head-on: should Dijonai Carrington actually face a full-season suspension? Demanding a year-long ban is a far massive escalation compared to simply reviewing whether a play warranted a flagrant foul or an extra fine. A full-season suspension represents one of the harshest penalties in professional sports and is strictly reserved for the most egregious breaches of conduct. That is precisely why clear evidence matters so much. If executive review proves an athlete intentionally set out to inflict physical harm beyond acceptable athletic bounds, major disciplinary measures are fully justified. However, if official review concludes the play was an unfortunate result of high-speed collision, enforcing a career-altering punishment becomes impossible to defend. This is why impartial league reviews are necessary, not online polls, not viral outrage clips, and not hot takes from whoever holds the loudest microphone. Official league reviewers, trained investigators, high-definition camera angles, player statements, and established rulebooks are the only valid tools for resolving high-stakes athletic disputes. The official ruling stands as upgraded to a flagrant foul penalty 2. The defensive foul on Dijonai Carrington is officially upgraded to a flagrant 2 because of unnecessary wind-up, strong impact, and follow-through, creating high potential for injury against an athlete in a vulnerable mid-air position. Since the shot was successful, Sophie Cunningham will head to the free throw line for one additional attempt. There was clear wind-up, heavy follow-through, and direct potential for injury against a defenseless athlete. Yet, there is a clear reason why sentiments like "enough is enough" strike such a deep chord with audiences. People don't tune into sports strictly for statistical box scores. They watch because they build genuine emotional connections with the game. They root for specific athletes, build team rivalries, and passionately defend their favorite players. When they feel a player has been targeted or mistreated, they want someone in power to take a stand. That explains why media figures like Concha generate such strong reactions. They aren't just reporting events, they are offering a framework for how the public should feel about those events. And when millions of viewers absorb that framing, it rapidly shapes the overall narrative surrounding the league. There is pure chaos unfolding in the WNBA right now. Listen to this. Take a walk with me for a second. There is wild drama happening in women's basketball. Dijonai Carrington actually posted "white privilege" on social media straight from the locker room during an active game. Think about that. She commits a hard flagrant foul on Sophie Cunningham, gets tossed from the floor, walks to the locker room, and immediately posts about white privilege mid-game. Here is the key point for me: a flagrant 2 requires contact that poses a severe injury risk and appears excessive on review. Let's turn the perspective around completely and evaluate this from an athlete's viewpoint. Picture yourself as a professional basketball player operating at maximum speed against world-class opposition. Every single possession carries high stakes. You make an aggressive defensive attempt, heavy contact occurs, and suddenly millions of online observers are calling for you to lose your livelihood for an entire year. That is a massive jump. Professional athletes are human. They make physical misjudgments, play overly aggressive defense, and occasionally make poor split-second decisions. The real question is whether league discipline aligns proportionally with the actual infraction. Accountability does not have to mean maximum destruction. You can recognize that a player committed a dangerous error without demanding their career be erased. You can criticize a dirty play without reducing the conversation to personal hatred. And you can support Sophie Cunningham without blindly endorsing every extreme claim directed at Dijonai Carrington. That balanced approach is what real sports media evaluation looks like. Dijonai Carrington behaves so unprofessionally because how do you commit a clear flagrant 2 foul and then immediately go onto social platforms to act like the victim? There is also a broader conversation unfolding about the trajectory of the WNBA as a whole. The league's audience, cultural footprint, and coverage have exploded exponentially. Millions of new fans are tuning in, games are sparking national debates, and players are becoming mainstream icons. However, heightened visibility brings intense public scrutiny. Every contentious physical play gets analyzed in slow motion, every hard foul becomes viral content, and every court dispute dominates daily headlines within seconds. That elevated attention isn't inherently negative, it offers unprecedented commercial growth for the sport. But it also means players, teams, referees, and media figures must navigate an unprecedented level of public reaction. When a global audience is watching, accurate, objective, and level-headed sports coverage becomes vital. One of the most intriguing elements of professional sports is how quickly physical competition gets interpreted as personal hostility. Athletes compete with fierce intensity, talk trash, battle for physical position, celebrate big moments, and show frustration. Yet once the game concludes, the reality off the court is often vastly different from what fans assume. Spectators frequently overlook that reality. We see isolated broadcast clips, the players experience the full 40 minutes of game flow. They understand the underlying momentum, physical build-up, and exact context preceding a controversial moment. That is why judging personal intent from a brief video loop is notoriously difficult. Meanwhile, a secondary arena operates simultaneously, the internet. Unlike an official league committee, online commentary follows no consistent standard or due process. A player is praised as a hero one afternoon and labeled a villain by the next morning. A single post can flip public opinion, a fresh camera angle can alter the narrative, and a new clip resets the outrage cycle all over again. This is precisely why sports fans should hesitate before accepting extreme viral claims at face value. Instead of immediately picking a side, the smarter question to ask is, what facts are actually verified? It takes more effort to answer, but it leads to a far more honest debate. So where does this high-profile dispute go moving forward? The most logical path is letting official league authorities conduct a formal review. If executive leadership concludes the action violated player safety regulations, proportional disciplinary measures should be enforced. If the review determines the contact was within standard competitive play, the league should issue its finding and move forward. Fans will naturally continue to hold differing opinions, and that's entirely fine. Passionate disagreement has always driven sports culture. But healthy debate doesn't require personal attacks, threats, or villainizing athletes over unverified assumptions. The best sports discussions remain passionate, fair, and grounded in reality. Let's be completely real, this situation contains every single ingredient of a massive, viral sports narrative. You have two highly visible athletes, a physical court incident, explosive emotional reactions, polarizing takes, major national analysts jumping in, and fanbases divided down the middle. It is the ultimate recipe for maximum online engagement. That is why this story will continue generating clicks long after the game ends. But eventually, the focus needs to return to actual basketball, because competing at the highest level is why these athletes are on the floor in the first place. Was Joe Concha justified in demanding a season-long ban? That ultimately comes down to personal interpretation. But there is a much bigger takeaway than whether you side with Concha, Carrington, Cunningham, or any media commentator involved. Never allow viral outrage to replace factual context. If official review reveals severe, malicious conduct, enforce the appropriate punishment. If the evidence shows a standard flagrant foul, let the penalty fit the action. And if a play remains ambiguous, the most responsible take is to acknowledge that ambiguity. Sports don't need less passion, they need smarter, more grounded conversations. You can root for your favorite player, call out a bad foul, question an official's call, or critique league management. That's the core of fandom. But there is a clear boundary between sports debate and relentless online attacks. The ultimate goal should always remain simple: review the footage, enforce the rules, keep penalties proportional, and let the athletes get back to playing the game we all love. Thanks for tuning in. What are your thoughts on this entire situation? Drop your opinions in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, and subscribe to WNBA Core for your daily basketball updates. We'll see you in the next one.